Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about what it's like learning Norwegian. And I don't know who out there might be interested, but you never know. So if you want to learn Norwegian, or you just want to get to know more about what it's like learning a new language, you're moving to a new country, or you just want to learn a new language, this is a brief description. That sounds very scientific. This is a brief chat about that, what my journey learning Norwegian has been like. So, I never in my life thought I would ever have need for Norwegian because it's not a widely spoken language. Norway has around 5 million people, give or take. So it's not really a language that you, out of the blue, decide that you're going to learn. It's not like learning English. It's not like learning French, Spanish, or even German. But then a day came that I needed to learn Norwegian because I was going to move to Norway. At first I thought that I could just learn Norwegian by myself. I thought, okay, I've got some time on my hands. I thought to myself that I'll just teach myself the language because I've always liked languages, and I thought, I could learn it really fast, and if I could only find a free language course, then I will do that, is what I thought to myself. And I went ahead to find one such course. It was called Norwegian on the Web. There is a university here, I think it's the University of Trondheim, that offers this course to their students, foreign students, and I don't know if they have foreign staff that might want to learn it. So I decided to take this course, and it was a very nice course. It gave me some introductory material about Norwegian starters. It was divided into about 10 sections, and you learn starting from the basics, and it got complicated as you go along. And in the beginning it was okay, but the thing about teaching yourself or any sort of self-study really is that you really need to have the motivation, and you need to have a plan. Otherwise you're just going to fall off the wagon, which is what happened for me because I had other things to do. They took a higher priority at the time. So I did those things instead of, spending as much time as I wished on the Norwegian. Those classes were good and could have taken me a certain level. Eventually, I decided that the best thing for me was to find some classes and learn in a structured environment and have a teacher and learn with other students, because then you can cover the material in a set period of time and just be done with it. So that's what I did. We found some classes and I enrolled to those classes. So these classes were being taught in Norway, and every time I visited Norway, I would take these classes. And because I did not have a lot of time on my hands, a month here, 2 months there, that was the time that I used to do these classes. And so this course that I took, it was called super intensive. So there is this university called Universitetet. They have many language courses there. And so, so I took these Norwegian language courses. Now, the super intensive course, that meant that what other people did in a time of, say, 6 weeks or 7 weeks, you really did in about 3.5 weeks. So it was really, really intensive with a lot of homework. It needed a lot of commitment, and by the time you came out of the classroom, you would be drained. I think my classes would start at 8:30 every morning and end at 12:45. So that's a lot of time to be sitting in a classroom learning the language. And obviously we would have a break in the middle to, have lunch or what have you, and then we would take it up again. And then when you go home, obviously you've got all this homework that you have to do before the next class the next day. And I did that for a number of my courses, and it was super intensive. I moved forward a lot. The thing about these courses and doing it this way is at the end of the day you're really tired, and you're supposed to be practicing the language. But one of my Norwegian teachers actually advised that when you get home, you take a break from Norwegian. Because, a lot of people usually ask, like, do you speak Norwegian at home, like with the people around you, so that you can learn? But I had this one teacher that said, no, do not speak Norwegian when you get home. Take a break. Because, like, your brain is saturated, you're frustrated, and you can't learn when you're frustrated, And sometimes you just want to be able to breathe and communicate in a language that you understand. I remember that when I had just got here to Norway, there would be people who within 2 weeks were trying to speak to me in Norwegian. And I think they thought they were helping, but it annoyed me greatly, because if you came to my country and I spoke to you in my language, I spoke to you in Luganda in like the first 2 weeks, you'd be looking at me like, are you crazy? So you gotta give a person time to learn the language before you start bombarding them thinking you're helping them. It does not help. It does not help. Sometimes you just want to communicate, understand, and be understood. And that was the case for me. If you're learning Norwegian or any language really in Europe, you may have heard of what's called the Common European Framework for Reference of Languages. And so this is a certain leveling system that all countries in the EU or the EEA follow, just to help understand at what level someone's understanding of a language is, or how well they can speak it. And it goes from A to C. And you've got A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, and C2, with A being the lowest level and C being the highest level. So if you have a language qualification, let's say from Italy, and you take that qualification to, no, scratch that. Let's say you live in Italy and you learn French, and then you've got some kind of certification that you know you've learned French. Now, when you go to France, they'll want to know at what level you speak the French language, and you can just present your certificate and say C2 or B2, then they will understand, you know. So it's a common way for the European countries to understand at what level someone speaks a language. The training is structured to follow those levels. A lot of people stop at B2. For people that need Norwegian language certification for work, they may need to present a certificate to prove that they can understand and speak the language. And organizations, schools, employers, those that ask for it usually want it to be at a B2 level. So a lot of people stop at the B2 level, which is pretty good. And then they take the exam. There are 2 exams that you can take. There is the Bergenstesten, which I suppose originated from the city of Bergen. And then there is the Norskprøve, which is a test that's provided by a center called Kompetanse Norge. Both of these 2 kinds of tests are held throughout the year. The Norskprøve is held with a more frequency than the Bergenstest. And it is said that the Bergenstest is a bit tougher than the Norskprøve, but personally I'm not sure about that, because B2 level is B2 level, regardless of where the exam is being given. Because for me, the timetable for the Bergenstest did not fit into my needs. I ended up having to do the Norskprøve because that timetable worked for me. When you look at the time at which the tests are held, the exams are held, and when the results come out, it may be way after whatever it is you need the certificate for, which really presents a challenge. You may just have to choose whichever you want, and they cost different prices. I think the Bergenstest is more expensive. I'm not sure. I'll put all that information in the description box below. Now that we've talked about that, let's talk about the practical bits, shall I call them? So, how is it really learning the language? When I first started learning Norwegian, I thought it was going to be easy, and it was easy. You know, the basics, they were easy to remember, and everything was just, you know, smooth sailing, shall I say. And I enjoyed learning it. The challenge for me was that the more I learned, the harder it got. I studied French all through secondary school, right up to my A-levels, and I was pretty good at it, and I had no trouble with it. But French is a lot easier than Norwegian. At least it was for me. The thing about Norwegian is the more you know, the more complex it gets, and it just, I don't know, it just got tougher. Maybe part of that was that I badly needed to have the language, you know, because as a healthcare professional, you really need to have the language before you can work. People need to know that you have the language. And I wanted to find work. So I was sort of under pressure to learn, which is one tip I'll give you if you're ever thinking about coming to Norway. Start learning the language as soon as the thought hits your mind that you might want to come to Norway, you know. As soon as the thought hits your mind, oh, I might want to move to Norway, start learning the language, because it takes time. There are people that say, oh, I learned in 3 months. I'll tell you what, I do not believe them. Lies, 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 lies. You may have learned the basics and whatever else, but the language is a lot more complex than that, and it goes a lot deeper than that. And the Norwegians are very proud of their idioms, and the impression I've got is that somehow they sort of think they're the only ones that have idioms. They like to talk about, oh, we have all these sayings in Norwegian that only make sense in Norwegian. But so do all of other languages. Every other language has those expressions that are unique to them. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're an English speaker, you know of idioms. I know of idioms in my mother tongue. And yeah, so there are many of those in Norwegian, and they're used very regularly in daily speak. And so there's that level of complexity also, but it's not just the idioms. At least for me, that hasn't been a problem. Like when it comes up, you know, sometimes you understand something based off of the context in which it's being said, and a person does not need to explain it. And other times when you don't, well, then you can simply ask. But the reality was that the more I learned, the more complex the language got. And I was under high pressure to start speaking the language. For a very long time, I could speak Norwegian, you know, based on the vocabulary that I had, you know, summed up. And I could also read and obviously write, but hearing was a problem because my ears were not yet attuned to the language, you know. And one other thing Norwegians like to proudly talk about to newcomers that are just learning the language is that there are many dialects in Norway. You know, the person from northern Norway is going to speak very differently from the person from southern Norway. And it's different than it is in the UK. Because I know that they've got that in Britain as well. And most countries have that, you know, different regions have different dialects, you know. Well, where I come from, we have more than 40 languages. So obviously it's a lot more complex than that, you know, than dialects here in Norway. But those dialects can be a real challenge if you're new. And maybe it helps when you just settled in one region and trying to learn from that region. But the thing is, you're going to meet people from all other parts of Norway in whatever region you may find yourself in. And so you need to tune your ears to listening to those dialects. It's just, but with practice, it gets better. One other thing I can talk about is that when I went back to do my C level course, because at some point I did A1, A2, B1, B2, and then at that point I stopped for a while. And I just, you know, I was working, or I'm working. And so I just continued learning Norwegian from, you know, from talking to people, from reading, from work, and things like that. You sort of learn more things, watching TV, listening to podcasts, and so on and so forth. But then at some point I felt that I did not want to stagnate. So I decided to go back and learn a bit more because I once again needed that structured learning environment. And so I went back to do that. And when I went there, what I noticed is that there were a lot of people that were not at my level yet. And the language teacher actually said to me, you're at a good level. Because there were other students that sort of perhaps needed to have practiced a bit more, which got me thinking that maybe it's not a good idea to go through all those levels at once. That at some point you sort of, I would recommend studying the language up to B level, and then just stopping for a while to learn, to improve your listening comprehension, to improve your speech and all of that. I would recommend getting better, you know, while you're at the B level, getting better in real life use of the language before taking on the C level language training. Otherwise, personally, I feel you don't really get value for your money if your use of the language is still at B level, say B1, and you're paying money to be taught at C1 level. The teacher is not going to send you away, but the thing is, you're not yet at C1 level. So even after the C1 class or C1 or C2, after you've paid for that class, you're just not there yet because you have not taken the time to learn in a real life environment how to use the language. And so I would really recommend taking the time to just use the language and learn, and before you go paying more money for this. My advice, if you want to learn Norwegian, spend time in Norway, that really helps, or just really immerse yourself. Listen to podcasts, watch television. I don't watch TV that much, Norwegian TV. There are some programs I really like, and you know, I'll even watch them on, you know, on my iPad on the TV app. So there are some programs I really like, but I don't regularly watch Norwegian television. I just have some select programs that I go looking for, and that helps with my listening and my understanding. You know, you can use the subtitles. You can read. The newspapers are a really good way to learn Norwegian. If you have access to Norwegian material online, that would really help you, and podcasts. And then just speaking the language. And if it takes some time for you to learn, that's okay. One thing that would have helped me learn the language faster is if I had been based in Norway the entire time that I learned Norwegian. I think then I would have been great in a year tops, you know. But I wasn't here. I was going back and forth between Norway and Malta at the time, and I wasn't able to just sit in one place and learn Norwegian. But if you have the time, or you're going to be based in Norway the entire time you're learning the language, then that would really help. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to leave this video here because how much can really be said about learning a language. I feel I've said a lot. I've shared my experience. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let the algorithm know that you enjoyed it. It helps me, you know, it helps me feel good so that I don't feel like I just sat here and wasted my time. And it also helps other people find me that are interested in this kind of information. So go ahead and give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share the link. Share it with someone who might need it. Even if that person is not looking to learn Norwegian, but looking to learn any other language, let me know. Yeah, see you in the next one.